Yeah, if I could take a little step back in time and bring young me to today here and say, hey, look around. You know, I don't think I would have believed it. The influence of cars in my life, it's been pretty heavy. I tell you what, I mean, my life revolves around it. That's all I do, think about 99.9% of it is this right here. This is what I like. Yeah, I'm Jimmy Shine. I'm 52 years old and I build hot rods, race cars, toaster ovens, and lampshades. Growing up in Orange County since the early 1970s was a pretty magical time. It's way different than it is now. Motorcycles, go-karts, shooting guns out in the fields. It was a wonderful time, And again, my brothers and I grew up in a family where my dad was very much about motorcycles and boats and hot rods and hunting, fishing, all that good stuff. So. It was a great time. I wish I could go back. I was involved in a lot of stuff as a kid, working with my dad and such, but my own build was a 1940 Willys pickup truck that I started when I was 14 years old. It's funny, it's very similar to the chassis behind me here right now, all tube chassis, and it was a 1940 Willys truck. I paid $950 for the steel body on a stock chassis. Naturally, that was not good enough. I had to build my own chassis, design my own suspension, built a small block Chevy, turbo 400, narrowed 9-inch Ford rear end, on center lines, of course. This is 1985, you had to have center lines. That was my first full build, my first real true project, and that was all my own. And that, man, that sent me down a path. Have a look around. Hi, I'm Jimmy and we're at the Shine Speedshop here in Orange, California. This car here, this chassis, is owned by Gary Hendricks. It's a 1952 Buick body that goes on this chassis. It's a Morrison perimeter, all on air, 4-link suspension. And you can see that what we've done here with this big block Chevy, turbo 400, gear vendors, the exhaust system. Gary's very specific what he wanted to have his car sound like. So we've got this system that actually has 4 mufflers. We got our primaries, our secondaries. Our secondaries actually internally neck down to 2.5 inch, so we really suppress the sound. However, Gary wants to also have the ability to open it up and have his straight hot rod pipes. So you can see up in the front here, we've got these solenoids, these butterflies that open up and actually divert the exhaust through the straight pipes. And then they bleed and blend right back into the original exhaust system that goes out the back and exits under the bumper. We've got bellows in here that kind of isolate the vibration and help control sound as well. Everything is clamped together with V-band clamps. Real neat car. Gonna have a stock body on it, so it's gonna be kind of a sleeper. Here's another vehicle. We actually built this a few years ago, and unfortunately, it got in a wreck. So a 67 C10 truck. It too is all on air ride. It's a stock chassis, small block Chevy, automatic transmission, and again, of course, our MagnaFlow exhaust. Another car that's ready for completion. Body's in paint right now. It's a 1959 Pontiac station wagon. We actually built this car to match his boat. He's got a 1959 Chiata boat with a 389 Pontiac motor. So we built this car to match his boat and tow his boat. And of course, our MagnaFlow exhaust. Everything's tucked real high. This chassis doesn't lay frame. It stays about 1 inch off the ground. So everything is nice and high and suspended, routed neatly through the chassis. And of course, we've got our Lakewood pipes on here. Yeah, let's regress. Let's go back about 25 years, 27 years, something like that. I was, this is in the mid-1990s. I was driving a concrete truck for a living, living at the beach, surfing. I had my, my rigid Harley that I was building in my living room. I got a phone call from my friend, and he said, hey, Pete's looking for some young blood, you know, some young guys that can, you know, build hot rods, bikes, do that kind of stuff. And he's like, so yeah, I was wondering if you knew anybody. It's like, wow, that's weird. It's like, God, I really can't think of anybody I know that, you know, would be qualified to work for P.H. I was like, yeah, I'll think about it. He says, no, knothead, I was talking about you. And I had a really great meeting with him. It was kind of intimidating to sit in an office with P.H. you know, but it went really well. And at the end of our interview, he says, you know, Jimmy, I got one question for you. I said, yeah, what's that? And he says, you know, it's June and it's like 120 degrees outside. Why are you wearing a long sleeve shirt? And I said, well, great, here it comes. Like, well, I have a couple tattoos. He grabs my arm, he's looking at my tattoos and looking, and he lets my arm go and he pulls up his sleeve and shows me his Jack Rudy tattoo. It was awesome. So yeah, that was my introduction, my first meeting with P.H. and I worked for that man for almost 20 years. Pete, SoCal Speedshop, they kind of promoted me as my own entity. In 2015, when I branched off from SoCal after, oh God, yeah, that was 18, 19, almost 20 years. Shine Speedshop was already me. It was already something, it was at least a name. And my wife and I really got together on it, and we opened Shine Speedshop in 2015. So it's been 8 years now, and it's going really good. I've got some wonderful cars, wonderful clients, friends, co-workers. You know, my wife and I, we get to work together every day, and it's just magic. Actually, we do get along great. My wife's a big part of the company, and I couldn't do it without her. I mean, none of us guys here working. She's kind of the queen bee here, and she takes care of everybody and everything. So I'm hoping this continues for a long time, and we get to have great projects and have great friends and all kinds of adventures. So I'm looking forward to the future. Growing up as a kid, I mean, I read all the hot rod magazines. I mean, all my heroes, all my idols. If you look around the shop here, you'll see pictures of Billy Gibbons, ZZ Top, Art Krisman, you know, a lot of my heroes. You know, now that I get to call them my friends. Like, you know, I remember in 1983 riding my bicycle home from school to watch MTV when it just first came out. And, you know, there's ZZ Top Eliminator, to know that, you know, Billy's now one of my very good friends. And I think my mind would have been blown, go back to 14 years old, building my first car, to ever imagine, you know, a hot rod shop, a business, be actually making a living at doing what we love to do. Yeah, if I could take a little step back in time and bring young me to today here and say, hey, look around. You know, I don't think I would have believed it. Well, it's pretty crazy to think, you know, that our two daughters are grown up. It was pretty surreal when our youngest daughter got married, and it was a little bit even more surreal when you get a phone call and, Dad, I'm pregnant. Wow. It kind of puts things into a different perspective. It's a pretty neat thing. I'm kind of reliving stuff that maybe I didn't take full awareness of or appreciate when I was, you know, 21 years old and a dad. I don't think I appreciated it as much. I don't know, it's kind of a roundabout way. I hope I said that right. Is that weird? Seriously, being like 21 years old and having a kid, you're a kid having a kid, and I don't think I appreciated everything as much as I do now. Maybe that's a good way to say it. I think my first introduction to MagnaFlow, I want to say it was like 2006, when we were filming a TV show. And then a few years later, when Rich stepped into the game and, you know, went to work for MagnaFlow, I was like, hit it off. We became really good friends, and just, you know, again, we could talk for days about all the different projects we worked on. problems we've resolved. One of my favorite experiences working with MagnaFlow and Rich was when we were able to solve the problem with the 33 Ford four-door sedan, LS powered. And my client, my friend, he's a very demanding man, and I was just terrified every time we'd work on the car, and it's like I could not solve this problem. And it's funny, you would drive this car and the drone, this goes back to the NDT, the no drone technology. It was only in the front seat. If you sat in the back seat of the car and drove, you did not hear that drone. So we tried moving mufflers and all that. It's when we ended up doing the reversion chambers that Rich came up with. I was so elated, and I had my client, my friend, Mr. Glazer, show up, and he had that look on his face, like he's just waiting to be disappointed. Gets in the car, and he's looking at me, and we're driving down the street, he's looking at me, and he just starts to smile, and he's like, I don't know what you did, but this is wonderful. That was one of my best stories. Yeah, I mean, I can't thank Rich, I can't thank MagnaFlow enough. It's just a good relationship, good product, a lot of support. Yeah, I choose no other. Well, what would I like to be known for when it's all said and done? You mean like when I'm dead? That's a nice way of saying, hey, you know, if you're thinking about death, let me put that thought in your mind for a second. So when you're dead, what? What's going on here? But that happens. It's going to happen sooner or later. I'm actually surprised I'm not dead right now. But I think when it's all said and done, I think I would like to be, number one, you have to be it, but remembered for being a nice guy. That's it. I don't want to be known for doing anything or being a star or on TV. I'd like to be known for being a nice guy. Well, we got some shows coming up. Grand National Roaster Show. We've got the Quail up in Monterey. We got Dino's Get Down. That's in November. And there's a lot of other events in between that I'm not mentioning, but there's a lot going on, and I'm looking forward to it. And I think now's a real good time. I'd like to thank MagnaFlow. Thank you for your help, your support, and I foresee this going on for a long time into the future.